Hey guys, Logan at Enduro Engineering. Here I'm going to show you how to install the rear brake disc guard for the KTM, Gas, and Husqvarna models with the Brembo rear brake. Okay, first step is going to be removing the rear wheel. So to take the rear wheel off, the first thing you're going to want to do is press in your brake caliper. That way it relieves the pads. That way when you go to put your wheel back on, you'll be able to get it in between the brake pads a lot easier. So go ahead and just take a wrench, take off the rear axle nut, and then just remove the rear wheel. Alright, now that you got the wheel off, next step is going to be removing your brake pads. So on these Brembos, you got the two clips here on the brake pin. Pull those out, set them to the side because you're going to reuse them. Slide the brake pin out, and then the brake pads. Then what you can do, slide the caliper carrier off of the swing arm, and then just press on the caliper itself, pull it off the carrier. Okay, there's a few things that you're going to need to transfer from the stock brake carrier over to the Enduro Engineering one. First thing is going to be the rubber boot. You can just pull that right out, transfer it over to the Enduro Engineering brake disc guard. Slide that in and then spin it, make sure it's all seated into the groove. Next going to be the brake pad stop. Pry that off the stock one, transfer it over, and then you're going to need to take an 11mm wrench and remove the pin. So just unthread that, and we're going to transfer that over as well. Now that we've got the three pieces transferred from the stock carrier into the Enduro Engineering carrier, now we're just going to reinstall the caliper the same way that we took it out. So you've got the two slide pins, just slide both those into the rubber boots, and then slide it all the way back on. Now the carrier can go back into the swing arm, so you got the notch out, so just slide it forward. Get it over the pin to then slide it back. So if the pressure spring came out of the brake pads, be sure to just slide that back in. We can take brake pads and reinstall those. Alright, so you got the brake pads in with the pressure spring up top, and then slide the brake pad pin back in, and then you always want to go in from the inside, pushing outward. And then make sure you got your holes lined up for the clips so that you'll be able to reinstall those as well. So I've got the holes pointed straight up. Gonna reinstall the clips. Now we're just gonna reinstall the rear tire. Okay, so we're gonna reinstall the rear tire, and since we pressed on that brake caliper before we took the wheel off, we can slide that disc right in there pretty easily. So let's get that lined up. Get your chain lined up with your sprocket, and then put the axle back through. Okay, a tip I like to do to make sure that we get the axle blocks right up against the adjusters tight every time. So I just take a screwdriver, line it up into the sprocket, and roll the wheel backwards. What that's going to do is put pressure up against those adjusters so that when I tighten the axle nut, everything is where it's supposed to be. Alright, last thing you want to do is just make sure you pump up the rear brake, get the pressure back into the pads. That way when you go to ride again, you're not just going to blow right off the track or what have you. So if you have any questions on installing the rear disc guard, give us a call at 517 393-2421 or visit EnduroENG.com.